and welcome to D&D in a Castle's DM Deep Dive. I am here at the Mohican Castle for D&D in a Castle USA, our first ever American D&D in a Castle. And I am here with Dungeon Master Elisa Teague, Dungeon Master Extraordinaire, who's running a campaign for 6 people over the course of this 4-day event at this beautiful castle. So welcome, Elisa.
Thank you.
So happy
to be
have
here.
you. Yeah. So what have you been doing for your players this week?
Well, I write a custom campaign for every group that I have at D&D in a Castle, and I have written a very specific new way of running a game, for me at least. And this week I decided to do a darkened twist on fairy tales. And so my players have been traveling through an area of Faerun, so they are in the Forgotten Realms, but an area of Faerun that I feel is very much ignored, and some of my favorite areas are right in the middle. You know, the books recently have been focusing so much on the Sword Coast, but nothing really in the middle. So I love Cormanthyr and those areas, and we are focused on one of the rare feudal kingdoms of Faerun, which is Impultur. And so I took that king and queen setup, which you don't really see that much. I'm like, what can fit so well with this? Well, fairy tales. So my adventuring party is now on a journey to save the king because something attacked the castle, and they now know it was done to cause a distraction so that ne'er-do-wells, and that's now their last name, the group of bandits' last name according to my party. The Misters and Mrs. Ne'er-do-wells have invaded the castle and stolen 3 ancient relics that actually are taken from the history of D&D in this area, and they were being kept in the castle in order to keep the king alive because he's suffering from a wasting disease, and the magic power from these relics are what's keeping him alive because he is so well beloved and everybody finds him so endearing, and he has been the very first king in this area in hundreds of years because it had been cursed for a while and afflicted by the Sundering Wars and everything else that has happened over the last really over 1,000 years in this area, and he has brought peace and prosperity and everyone loves him. So this is a very big deal that he's about to die. Meanwhile, at the same time, mysteriously, the princess has also been whisked away from the castle. And there are 2 separate quests, and my players were forced to choose what they were going to do first. And they have decided to kind of do a combo, which is great. And everything is based on twisted fairy tales. So the princess is an analog for Snow White. She is currently asleep in a glass coffin right at the Earthspur mountain range, where they are going to have to go in and find the special ingredients inside a mining cavern of the, yes, you guessed it, the 7 dwarves, which are part of an elite society called the Spectrum. And they are going to find the ingredients to a potion to try to revive her. Meanwhile, they've been searching for the different relics. They have found 2. And the next one that they have, they already know where they need to go, so not that they're going to see this ahead of time, but they just acquired some magic beans, and they think they know where to plant them so that they can go up and fight a storm giant and get that last relic and hopefully get back to the castle in time. But so far they have run into the 3 little pigs, and yes, they did murder hobo on their houses and burned them down and blew them down and invaded everything. They snuck into the 3 bears' cottage for gold Elox, a summer Eladrin elf, who tasked them with getting the perfect temperature porridge and the perfect pillow and the perfect chair in order to free himself from an oppressive tree-stride curse, and he was quite dashing, and then gave them a relic in exchange for that. They have come across the huntsman in the woods. They have come across well, actually it's the princess's estranged grandmother, who happens to be the werewolf. So the wolf in grandmother's clothing is actually just the grandmother. and many other really fun characters along the way, including Rumpelstiltskin's great grandson, where they had to do a puzzle to figure out a puzzle in the stars with constellations at night, in order to figure out what his name was, and get some clues from him as well. So it's been really cool melding those stories and watching my players as they at first thought they knew exactly how to solve everything because classic fairy tales, but no, these are twisted tales.
Things aren't always what
they
they
do not
seem.
know who to trust, that's for sure.
So we're in day 2. We've just finished day 2
Yes.
out of 3 sort of solid gaming days. Are you on track, like pacing wise? I think, you know, it's very different. I've heard from DMs, planning for a specific time length. It's not quite a one shot, it's longer, but it's not an ongoing campaign. So how do you prepare for that?
I consider this like a mini campaign. So I look at each, we have them in 4-hour blocks, right? And so then we have these 6 4-hour blocks. And so I consider each one of those a campaign session. I'm a very old school. I'm used to my adventure sessions running all day and all night. But right now, the trend is usually, 3 to 4 hours for a session. And so I do try to keep my areas in this 4-block time frame. And sometimes they go over, but I don't mind. I know I'm here to give the players the vacation of a lifetime. And so I am always willing to stay extra. If we run over, we have good ideas, we want to play through lunch or dinner, any of those things. As long as I have time to set up, because I do big terrain builds, as long as I have time to set up in between and kind of know where they want to go. But right now, we are very much on track. I think that they did do things in a different order than I expected, but that's okay because I do very modular designs for my campaigns. I like setting up an open world that they can explore, and they will pick up bits. Everything that I do is puzzly, and even if it's not a straight, like I'm sitting down and doing it, nothing's like sitting down to the table and doing a puzzle. We don't do that. But it's more like a murder mystery. I pick up a clue here, I pick up a clue there. Suddenly they start to make sense with each other, and the players put them there, or the characters put everything together. They talk to people and do investigation. They actually do exploration and find things. And then it all comes together and they put together these types of puzzles. So it doesn't matter where they go. This wasn't what I expected them to do, but I always love that because it presents such a good challenge for me to kind of rearrange in my mind, like, okay, how are they going to get to this information? And if they miss something, they miss something. I've never had a group not finish.
Right.
That's for sure. And so I think right now we're good to go. We may go a little long tomorrow, but that's because I like to do a really epic epilogue.
You do, and I know that you've been to Deanna Castle a number of times. You're one of our original DMs. You were
Some
there
number of times that I've lost count of.
Some number of times.
Yes.
And I think every time on the final day, you go well into the night and have your epic moment finale to finish off the castle. You've also been running games, not just at D&D Castle, but running games, designing games, writing games, contributing to official content, participating in live events. You've been in this world some time, and I'm wondering how D&D in a Castle compares, and how the players and the experience compares to other settings and places where you've run games before.
It's really different in every single facet to me. First of all, I am a game designer. I've been in the game industry for 24 years. I designed board games and card games, and yes, I've worked on a number of RPGs. I wrote the puzzle section of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I designed the Essence 20 system with a great team, but I was the lead designer on that. I've written so much different content. Right now, I'm producing a 5e folk horror setting called The Crooked Moon, and writing on that as well. And I don't get a real opportunity to DM a whole lot. I DM at conventions as a guest, and so I will go and I will DM, and a lot of times I use that as playtest material for things that I'm publishing, and it's great to get that feedback. But in my home games my whole life, I've been a player under my forever DM, and so D&D in a Castle is so refreshing to me because I get to do what I want to do under no other, aside from obviously we're playing D&D, but no other like strict guideline of, oh, this is a book with this particular setting. I get to be wacky and out there and do anything. I ran a campaign once at the castle that was an Egyptian pantheon themed on another plane of existence called Kemet, and I was able to go wild with all of the Egyptian gods and the underworld and everything like that. I've been able to put my own fantasy creatures in and see how they interact with everything. I get to make up my own magical items. I get to do whatever I want here, under all of the rules of D&D, but it is so freeing and great, and I just love being able to entertain and be a host to people who are having their vacation, and really a lot of people don't have the opportunity that some do to play often, and so to run a complete campaign, it's just a whole other experience than going to a convention and running a one-shot, you know, and or even just playing at home with my friends that know my style, know everything. Like the revelations on their faces is just incomparable. I don't know. And then of course we get settings like this, which is amazing.
Yeah, and you have, as I say, you've done D&D in a Castle a number of times, and we love having you every time, because we know you deliver really over the top.
I do my best.
Experience, and you have some very committed players. You definitely have. When players come and play with you, they come back again and again. And so, what kind of player is here for your game? What kind of player? Is there anything you've observed about the players that are like, yes, this is my game?
I feel like on the whole, not everybody, but on the whole, and I try to give a very mixed experience so that any type of player feels comfortable at the table and feels a part of the story. But I think that more of the players that gravitate towards my table are ones that want a deep role play experience. I am very rulesy and I love my terrain. I am a minis on the table. I'm not really a theater of the mind person. So I do love my rules. So, but I also use them as a guideline and a setup for a world in which you can explore and role play. And I generally have very, not tear-jerker campaigns, but I like to pull on those emotional heartstrings. Because I write the campaign custom for my group, I get their characters ahead of time. I like to have them over a month ahead of time if I can, and I really work in backstory details into the story and provide that opportunity, if they wish to interact with it, for them to really dive deep into their own characters' hearts and minds, and have what they do in story affect everything and affect their future if they were to ever continue. So I think people know that about me. I have brought a lot of tears to the table, but in addition to that, puzzles, but not in the way that people need to be afraid of. I never have a puzzle lock you in and sitting there for hours, not even like multiple minutes at all. It's a very, if you've ever read the chapter in Tasha's, it is, you can get out of any puzzle using any of the pillars of role-playing. So, and you can also get out of my combats using any of the pillars. So, just like you can get out of a combat by talking your way out of it, you can also get out of a puzzle by bashing your way out of it. So everybody at the table has a place, for sure, to contribute.
Excellent. And you're coming back again in the fall to Lumley Castle.
Yes, I am.
In the UK. Do you have an idea brewing about that, and can you tell us what?
I do. I mean, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but this is what I'm going to say, because I'm sure my players are probably going to watch this. My plan right now, again, I don't have their backstories, but what I would like to do is frame whatever I write within, because I'm going to be there for 2 weeks, and one of them is going to be just before Halloween, and one of them is going to be after Halloween. And in my brain, everything from basically now until I'm like 4th of July, the 5th of July until Halloween is basically Halloween season for me. And I'm not doing it here because this is very summery, even though it is starting to rain.
Beautiful.
But light summer rain. I'm planning on doing something very Halloween-y and dark and not too typical, but I have some things brewing for my first session. And then as soon as Halloween's over, guess what? It's holiday season. And so then I'm thinking about doing something wintry for the second half. And
Well, we have had snow
hoping
at Lumley
for
Castle.
snow. I'm really
Yes,
hoping for
I
snow.
knew you were going to say that. We have had snow in
yeah.
November at Lumley before. What is this? Tell us about this venue and how, because you've done Lumley Castle many times.
Yes, I have.
This is our first time ever being here, so it'd be your first time being here. How is it different?
I know you can't tell just from this little frame where we do have the gorgeous castle in the background, but far off into the distance this way, there is the most beautiful woodland area. And it's interesting because like most of my campaign this time, and I didn't know anything about this place or what it looked like except for a couple of like promo shots I saw of the castle. Took place in like this dark forest. It's the Grey Forest. If you any Faerun lore junkies will know the Grey Forest and where that is. So they've been traveling through the Grey Forest, and on our way to our gaming room, the very first day, I told my players, this is basically what it looks like. This is what the canopy of trees looks like. This is the types of like curly, curved, twisted trees, and there's actual moss. I live in Southern California. We don't have moss. There's moss everywhere. It is so green and beautiful just beyond this camera and magical, and it feels like we're in an elven wonderland here. And there are fireflies, which I don't get to see. I'm very excited about the fireflies. So they'll be out very soon, and hopefully, it did stop raining. So there we go. It was
just a little
quick summer
refreshing.
Yeah, and the fireflies are amazing, and I don't know, very inspiring for magic for me. I don't know.
Very cool.
It's a magical place.
So I want to ask you about you as a DM. How did you what drew you to D&D, and what made you want to be a DM?
Oh, this is a long story. I'll be here forever. But so I started playing D&D when I was 13, and it was the type of playing that you do as a 13-year-old. I will admit, it was at the time second edition. I now have gone back and played first, and love it. And I'm in a kind of a regular-ish first game. But I was playing second edition for a while, but very casually. And my junior high school had a D&D group, but I was the only girl. And but it wasn't so bad. But I skipped around from D&D to then I became a goth kid and skipped to vampire and other things like that. And I was testing out Cyberpunk, had just come out, and different things like that. I'm saying my age really badly right now. It's like 90s vampire LARP in the valley, and so in the San Fernando Valley it was a time. But I always was pulled back to Dungeons and Dragons, time and time again. And by the time I became a late teenager, I was playing all of the time. I was playing through my early 20s. I still play at home in my home game with my forever DM and the group of people I've been playing for almost 30 years with them, which is pretty incredible. And I feel very inspired by my DM, because I grew up learning how to play and how to DM by watching that. And I feel like I have a very similar style, and I never really got a chance to do it because he enjoys it so much. And that's why I've really not had much of a chance to DM until, really in my playing years recently, 10 years tops for DMing for me, even though I've been playing for 35. And so, what was the question again? Oh, I don't know. I'm off the rails already.
What drew you to
what
DMing?
Drew me to DMing? I love telling stories. I like to talk, as you can see.
We love that.
I love telling stories. I love being creative. I love being put on the spot and seeing how my creativity can work. This is just as much of a challenge for me to get through as it is for the characters in game. And I just love the creative process of us all working together to create a story that will be told for all time. I still have people that played in the very first castle with me in France who like still talk about their characters and make inside jokes about their characters, and I don't know, it's almost like you've written a part of their life that they carry with them forever. And there's just something about that. And I know a lot of DMs use the rules to work against the players and against the characters, but for me, I use the rules as an open canvas to work with everybody and to have the story kind of just flow through the rules. And I don't know, I love it. I love it.
That's wonderful. those are all my questions, I think. And it's so nice to have you here.
It's great. It's great to be back. I will always come back whenever you need me. I'll be here.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for joining us. Just in case it feels like the rain is coming and going, we're gonna go rejoin our friends in the tavern, I think, and enjoy the rest of our vacation. And we hope to see you at Lumley Castle or at Mohican Castle for one of our upcoming events. This October, Elisa is running 2 games. One of them is sold out already, and one of them does have some spaces left. That is October 28th to November 1st at Lumley Castle, UK. So if you'd like to come and join any of our DMs or
Come be
Elisa,
spooky with
come
me.
be spooky with Elisa. It's going to be so much fun at our Halloween castle. Thanks so much, and we'll see you at the castle.